National rents have been falling for 27 straight months. That's the longest decline on record. But here in San Diego, it depends on where you're renting. We're seeing some relief in some parts of the market, but others, it's still climbing. If you're trying to figure out whether to rent or buy right now, this split matters more than you think. And if you're wondering why that decision seems so impossible right now, the National Association of Realtors just dropped their annual buyer profile, and the numbers are pretty wild. First-time buyers just hit a historic low of 21% of the market. Meanwhile, all cash buyers hit an all-time high of 26%. So we've got the oldest, richest buyer pool on record, and the youngest buyers are getting completely priced out. If you're trying to understand why the housing market feels so impossible right now, this report explains everything. Both these topics covered in this week's San Diego Market Matters, and I'm Karl Kyler, your San Diego Realtor. If you haven't liked and subscribed to my channel yet, consider giving it a shot now. This way you can stay up to date on the San Diego housing market. Now, let's get into the good stuff. All right, let's talk about what's actually happening in the rental market, because the national story and the San Diego story are two different things right now. Let's start with the national context. Nationally, rents have been falling for 27 straight months. That's the longest consecutive decline on record. All unit sizes, studio, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, they're all down. The median rent across the 50 largest metros is sitting around $1,700, down roughly 1.7% year over year. But here's what's interesting. Even with those declines, rents are still up about 17% compared to 6 years ago, pre-pandemic. Meanwhile, home prices over that same period, they're up 40 to 50%. The rents haven't kept in pace at all. And that makes sense because rents growth tracks closer to income growth, not asset appreciation. People can only pay what they can afford out of their paychecks, while home prices, on the other hand, run ahead because they're fueled by credit, equity, and investor demand. So nationally, renters are finally getting some relief, but here in San Diego, it depends on what you're renting. According to the latest data from Zillow, the average rent for a single family house in San Diego is between $4,800 and $4,900 a month. That's up about $450 from last year and about a 10% increase. And there are only around 1,600 houses available for rent, so demand is strong, supply is tight, and landlords still have the leverage. And to add some additional context to that number, at the same time of shooting this video, there were only 2,743 detached homes for sale. Both these numbers are across the San Diego County, so they might sound big, but they really aren't. Now, as for apartments and condos, completely different story. The average rent is $3,195, down $154 from last year. That's about a 4.6% drop. And there are over 4,200 units available. That's oversupply, softening demand, and renters finally getting some breathing room. Well, this begs the question, what's driving this split? If you've driven through Hillcrest lately, or downtown, or really anywhere in the metro area, you've probably seen it. Scaffolding everywhere, luxury apartment buildings going up left and right. Developers have been flooding the market with high-end rentals, and now all that supply is hitting the market at once. The problem here, a lot of those units are really expensive. $3,000, $3,500, $4,000 a month for a nice 1 or 2 bedroom. But with the affordability stretched thin, demand for those luxury units isn't exactly keeping up. So landlords are offering concession, first month free, reduced deposit, waived fees, just to get people in the door. Meanwhile, single family homes, there's barely any new supply. People who own rentals are holding on, collecting rent, and benefiting from appreciation. And renters who want a yard and a garage and more space, they're competing for a very limited pool. That's why those rents keep climbing on the detached side. Now, what does this mean for you? Well, if you're looking at apartments right now, you're actually in a really good spot. Rents are coming down as inventory is going up, and you've got some negotiating power there. Lock in a solid deal, keep your overhead low, and use this time to save aggressively for a down payment to buy eventually. Because honestly, that might be the smartest play here. Home prices in San Diego are still around $1 million right now. Mortgage rates are in the mid-60s, so unless you got a big down payment or a really strong income, buying is really, really tough right now. But if you're renting strategically, meaning you're not just paying rent and hoping things are gonna get better, but you're actually using this time to cut costs and stack cash, you could be in a way better position in 12 to 18 months from now. So if you're renting right now and feel stuck, don't ignore this. The data's showing you where the opportunities are. And this could actually be one of the better times in the last probably 10 plus years to rent and save and set yourself up for the next move. Now, let's jump into the National Association of Realtors' recent buyer profile report and see what those numbers are telling us with the buyer pool. The National Association of Realtors, NAR for short, they dropped their recent buyer profile report, and it's showing us a complete picture of who's actually buying homes right now and why so many people feel like they're on the outside looking in. And though this data is national, I'm absolutely sure you're gonna agree that San Diego feels pretty in line with this data. Let's start with a historic look of first-time buyers. First-time buyers now make up just 21% of all home buyers. That's the lowest share ever recorded. For context, before 2008, the historic norm was 40%. So we've gone from nearly half the market being first-time buyers to barely 1 in 5. And the median age for a first-time buyer now is 40 years old. In the 1980s, it was late 20s, so we've added more than a decade to the timeline it takes to break into home ownership. The median down payment for first-time buyers is now 10%, the highest since 1989. Most of them are funding it themselves through personal savings or tapping into financial assets. Gifts from family are becoming less and less common. Now bring that to San Diego, median price here is around $1 million. So 10% down, that's $100,000 in cash just to get into the front door. And if you're renting and trying to save that while paying $3,000 to $4,000 a month in rent, that math is pretty brutal. Add student loans on top of that, and you can see why first-time buyers are shrinking as a share of the market. Now flip to repeat buyers, and the story's completely different. The median age for a repeat buyer is 62, the highest ever, and the median down payment is 23%. And here's a really interesting part, 30% of repeat buyers paid all cash. They didn't finance their home at all. How is this the case? It's because they've been building equity for years. Home prices are up 40 to 50% over the last 6 years. So if you bought in San Diego back in 2019 for $700,000, it's now worth over $1 million, and you've got $300,000 plus in equity. You can sell, cash out, and buy your next home with a massive down payment, or just pay cash outright for it. Repeat buyers are also holding onto their homes longer than ever, 11 years on average before selling. That's an all-time high there. A lot of that's driven by people who are locked into a low mortgage rate and don't want to trade that 3 to 4% for a 6 or 7% rate today. And when buyers do move, it's not about commuting to work anymore. Convenience to one's job dropped from 52% in 2014 to just 31% today. Remote work and flexible schedules changed the game. Now people are buying based on proximity to family and quality of life and not their office. Now here's a stat that ties all of this together. 26% of all home buyers paid cash. That's the highest share ever recorded. And back in 2003, it was only 7%. So who are all these buyers? These buyers are a mix of retirees relocating, investors buying rentals, and equity-rich repeat buyers who've been building wealth through homeownership for decades. But here's what it means if you're a first-time buyer trying to compete. You're at a massive disadvantage. Sellers love cash offers. There's no appraisal contingency, no financing risk. They come with faster closes. So even if you're pre-approved and you're putting 10% down, you're still getting beat by someone writing a check. And in San Diego, where inventory is tight, that dynamic plays out regularly. So here's the big picture. The housing market right now isn't broken. It's bifurcated. On one side, you've got repeat buyers who are older, wealthier, equity rich, and often paying cash. They've been in the market for years and they have lots and lots of leverage. On the other side, you've got first-time buyers who are older than ever, struggling to save six-figure down payments and competing against all-cash offers in the market that wasn't built for them. Now, if you're a first-time buyer, this doesn't mean you can't break into the market still, but it does mean you need to be strategic. Save aggressively, consider co-buying, look at less competitive neighborhoods or smaller homes to get your foot in the door. And most importantly, be patient. If you're a repeat buyer, you're in the driver's seat. You've got your equity, you've got options, and you got leverage. And if you're sitting on the sidelines trying to figure out which group you're in, this report is a wake-up call, because where you are in your homeownership journey right now is going to determine how hard or easy it is to make your next move. Now, if this report hit home for you and you're trying to figure out your next move, whether you're saving for that first home or you're sitting on equity and ready to trade up, let's talk. My contact info is in the description below. And that's a wrap. I hope that this data was valuable and helpful for you to get a better pulse of what the market is doing here in San Diego. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. As always, I'm Karl, your San Diego realtor. I'll see you in the next video.